Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is Wednesday, May 5th, also known as Cinco de Drinko, more commonly known as Cinco de Mayo. However, by the time you are watching or listening to this, it's probably going to be May 6th. You know why, Jeffe?
Why is that?
That's because we're a three-man crew here at the Horsemen. We do everything. We do our graphics. We do the editing. We do the uploading. We cut it all up. We have to do everything, and that just takes time. But if you want to help us out, maybe get us to the point where we can hire somebody to do that for us so we can get this content out to you ASAP, hit that like, subscribe button on YouTube. Help us out. We appreciate it. With that said, I'm Zach, aka the Oracle. I'm sitting here with Jeffe, the Guru.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back.
All right, today we're going to talk about the post-NFL draft that just wrapped up this last weekend. You pretty much heard it all by now. I'm sure everybody checking out all the big-time sites, all the podcasts out there. But we're going to go over just some winners and losers of the draft, kind of have a little free-flowing conversation of some kind of sort. So let's start this off. Personally, I think one of the biggest winners of this past draft, the Chicago Bears, making huge moves. Gave up quite a bit, but they moved up there and got Justin Fields, the future franchise quarterback. Nagy's taking a huge gamble here, but he's indicating he's willing to do whatever he needs to do to win with what he has now. If he doesn't, they will be gone at the end of the season or even before the end of the season. You never know. But I think Justin Fields was the right move for the Chicago Bears. I had him rated as my 1B quarterback, not even necessarily number 2, because I think he has the potential to be as good or better than Trevor Lawrence. And I know I'm going to get a lot of pushback on that, but I think he's pretty damn good. And so I think it was a hell of a move by the Chicago Bears. I think he's going to do very well, and even going another step further with the Chicago Bears in this draft and complimenting Justin Fields. They were able to snag offensive tackle Tevin Jenkins out of Oklahoma State in the second round. 2 great picks with tremendous value. So Chicago, to me, came out a winner in this NFL draft. What do you think, Jeff?
Chicago is a toss-up for me on whether they were a winner or loser. I don't really know which way to go because, like you said, being able to get Justin Fields, they traded up to get Justin Fields. You knew that was important to them when they made that move. They got the quarterback they want for their future. It remains to be seen whether he'll do well in the league or not. But assuming he does, great pickup for them. And then, like you said, they moved up in that second round to get Tevin Jenkins, another guy that they really wanted to have if they're going to make that move. And they lost some picks in the process of getting both those guys in the building. But those are 2 guys that are going to be here for at least a decade, you would think, with some sort of success. They'll both stick around each other, drafted in the same year. They should be together for quite some time and should both do really well. Pretty much everybody had Tevin Jenkins going in the first round. So for him to go in the second round, pick number 7, it's just great job by the Bears. I'm not big on losing a bunch of mid-round picks. I think those 3rd, 4th, and 5th round picks are really important. But even without a 3rd and a 4th round pick, they still ended up with 7 picks, got their quarterback, got a tackle to be with them. You can't be mad about it.
No, and I agree with you. I like the philosophy of acquiring more assets, kind of what the Dolphins have been doing lately, and also the way Chris Ballard with the Colts how he works the draft generally, and which I'm sure we'll get to here in a little bit. So I'm not necessarily on board with throwing a bunch of assets out there to continuously move up and get your guy. But with the pressure that is on Matt Nagy and this front office for the Chicago Bears, you have to win now. Your time is now. So making those moves, giving up those future picks, because who cares what if I'm those guys, I don't give a shit what happens the next few years. I have to win now or else I'm going to lose my job. So I think they made a gamble. They played their cards right. They moved up. They got Justin Fields and Tevin Jenkins out of it. I can't say I blame them. So, here in a couple of years, they might regret that decision, especially if Jenkins or Fields doesn't work out. But if they both work out and they're both there for a decade, that's a hell of a move by the Chicago Bears right there.
Yes, it is, and like you said, this is the ultimate protection for Pace and Nagy right here. If Justin Fields can make it work, they definitely got to put some more talent around him. Next year in the draft, next year in free agency, because they might get a little leeway with the new quarterback, two new quarterbacks this year, but I mean, you got to think if they do make it through this year and they go, 8-9 or 9-8, 10-7, whatever the case may be. If they're not, if they don't win a playoff game, that's going to be the hottest seat in the NFL.
Oh, absolutely. If I was a head coaching candidate, I'd be drilling for that job, especially with the moves they just made.
Yep, and I mean, imagine if they have any semblance of success, Allen Robinson is going to end up signing a long-term deal rather than a franchise tag, and that would be huge for him. So, like, just being able to get a guy in the building like that will entice guys to stick around. Chicago's a place people like to go because it's historic. So, really, I mean, these are kinds of moves you make that either completely make your career or completely break your career.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's keep it in the same division. Another winner for me, the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota traded down in the first round, acquired some extra assets, and were still able to land their man, offensive tackle Christian Darrisaw, to provide protection for Kirk Cousins up front. I like Darrisaw. I think he's probably the third best tackle in this draft. And for the Vikings to snag him at 23 was a huge W for them, especially because they were considering taking him at what, 14, I believe it was.
Yep.
So in their draft day trade, Minnesota was able to land they gave up what, two third round picks? Oh, no, 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 no. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sorry. I got that all screwed up. And their draft day trade, they traded back with, I think it was the Jets.
The Jets, yep.
Yep, snagged two third-round picks, including the one that they used to take a four-year Texas A&M starting quarterback and Senior Bowl MVP quarterback Kellen Mond, which I believe there's a good possibility that Mond could be a formidable quarterback in the league, letting him develop under Kirk Cousins for a little bit. So you sit him behind Cousins, let him learn, develop in a couple years. He may end up being a starter. So that could pay dividends. So they've made moves. They traded back, picked up extra assets, got their offensive tackle, got their potential quarterback in the future. I like it. I think they came out a winner in my book.
Yeah, I like their draft too. I don't know if I'd put them toward the top, but they certainly did well. Like you said, Christian Darrisaw, amazing value. Kellen Mond, Texas A&M lately has been a QB factory. Guys that come out of there, transfer out of there to go play somewhere else. I mean, there are just so many good quarterbacks coming out of Texas A&M right now. So, like you said, give them a year or two to kind of develop, learn the NFL, learn behind Kirk Cousins and his experiences. Could be a great pick. And I also like that with one of the other, I mean, they had four third-round picks. You're getting probably a couple guys there, really great value. And I think this guy, Chaz Surratt, linebacker from North Carolina, they had to fill a linebacker role. And for what it is, I think you feel that need. You get good value on the pick. So for me, I think the Vikings did a great job this draft. And when you said you're going to keep it in the division, I honestly thought you were going to talk about the Lions because the Lions themselves had a phenomenal draft. I mean, one of the most asinine things, and we'll probably talk about it soon. Um, Penny Sewell not going 5 to the
Yeah, I
Bengals
know.
blew my mind. I thought for sure he was going to go 5. Everybody did. Everybody was surprised that they went and got, Jamar Chase, but the Lions are the beneficiary of that. They were able to get a guy. They tried to trade up to be able to get Penny Sewell. They were hoping he fell to him. Luckily he did. And you got to think, Dan Campbell, Motor City Dan Campbell, he is this hard-nosed grindstone kind of guy. He goes and gets Penny Sewell, who is one of the biggest badasses in this entire draft, one of the biggest badasses to come out of college since Quentin Nelson a couple years ago. So Penny Sewell, and then you got what I thought he got great value on was these next two guys in Levi Onwuzurike and Aleem McNeil, second and third round picks. Now, Aleem McNeil was a debatable into first round, top of second round kind of guy. Levi, pretty much all the mock drafts that I had seen before the year had him toward either the middle or the end of the first round. So he got amazing value on each of his first three picks, three guys that should help really solidify both the trenches on both sides. You know, Penny Sewell should be a cornerstone, and you got two guys to eat up the middle, be able to stop the run, maybe rush the passer a little bit, but you're getting anchors. And in the NFL, you've seen it with New England for 20 years. You see it with, we see what Chris Ballard is doing with the Colts. You build from the front out, and there's success in the NFL when you do that. Motor City Dan Campbell not wasting any time getting a bunch of big old boys to fill some big holes for them. And so I thought the Lions had one of the best drafts.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you there. And during the draft, I even tweeted, I think it was right before they selected the Bengals selected Jamar Chase. I said, I know it's the sexy thing to do to draft a stud wide receiver, but it's even sexier to draft a big man up front that will get the job done and protect your quarterback. And that's what the Lions did. And then they turned around in their second and third pick and drafted two big ass defensive tackles. So good for them. I was a former former lineman offensively and defensively, high school, college. I like the moves. I like the way that the Lions are building that. I agree with you. They didn't go after the sexy picks. They went after the picks that are going to make a difference in the trenches, and that's going to win you football games. So I agree with you there. And to kind of transition into this, I want to talk about a loser real quick. Probably the biggest loser out there, Joe Burrow. For that same reason we just discussed. It's 2021, and drafting wide receivers is a sexy trend, especially when that wide receiver in the draft is a former LSU teammate of your franchise quarterback. So with the fifth pick in the NFL drafts, against both mine and Jeffe's better judgment, the Cincinnati Bengals selected Jamar Chase, a wide receiver out of LSU. Now, don't get me wrong, this may be a great tandem. They may be explosive, dynamic, exciting, but when you only get to see it for a few games a year because your future $100 million quarterback is running for his life or he's out for the season due to injuries, was it really worth drafting a sexy receiver? That's all I got to say.
Yeah, and I agree. In the offseason, they went in on their defense. So the Bengals defense should be fairly good this year. If I had to guess, they really invested in it, but you have to invest in your quarterback. He was a rookie and he snapped his whole leg. The ligaments in his knees all got torn apart. You got to be able to protect him. You can't let him keep getting hit. I understand it. AJ Green goes out of the building. John Ross never worked out for you the way you wanted him to. But you have T. Higgins, you have Tyler Boyd. You can get a third, fourth, and fifth and a sixth, a practice squad guy. Just get guys that can fill a role, that can be a role player for you. You have two guys that are going to be studs. It just didn't make any sense at all. They went and got, in their second round pick, they traded down, ended up with Jackson Carman, a guard from Clemson. Will probably have a fine career, but
he's not going to be no Penei Sewell.
Exactly. That is such a huge downgrade from Penei Sewell that it was just so mind-boggling. Anybody can understand why you take Jamar Chase there. Yes, now you have three receivers. You're going to have three really good receivers, probably 5 to 8 years at this point. But like you said, all the weapons in the world, doesn't matter if dude isn't there to throw the ball to you, or if he's getting rushed and has to throw the ball. I mean, it's just not good for the Bengals. They were big winners in free agency, huge losers in the draft.
Yeah, I was very surprised to see it. I know On my mock draft, your mock draft, we both had Sewell going there to the Bengals, but they slipped up and it was a Lions gain on that. So whatever. Bengals doing what Bengals do.
That is correct.
All right, let's move on. You're probably not going to like me for this one, but my next biggest loser of this draft, the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, you may disagree with me. I know you're a Raiders fan. I know you were high on this pick going number 21 to the Indianapolis Colts, but value-wise, I think taking Alex Leatherwood at 17 was a little bit of a reach, especially because he was projected to be a second rounder in most mocks. So especially with a lot of quality offensive tackles still out there on the board, I don't see why they would make that move. Personally, I would have taken another important piece or even traded back to the high second round or go for Leatherwood or another quality offensive tackle. Do I think he's going to be a very serviceable addition to the Raiders line? I do. But again, with a mid-first round pick, I think there was a lot more value out there in relation to that pick that the Raiders could have taken and still gotten their guy in the second round or somebody very similar instead of taking that reach in the first. What do you think?
Well, I do agree with you because as I was watching the draft and Christian Darrisaw was falling and falling and falling, I started to think, okay, I wanted Alex Leatherwood, but I didn't think Christian Darrisaw would be here for the Colts. Let's go ahead and pick him up. Obviously, the Colts went a different direction, but Alex Leatherwood, with the way the tackles were falling, you would think at round 2, pick 11, they could have gotten Alex Leatherwood there. But look, there were two guys that I thought the Raiders could have taken with their first pick, and one of them was a guy they did pick in the second round, Trayvon Morig, another guy that fell down in the draft boards. They ended up getting him anyways, so I don't know if that mattered a whole lot. But another one was going to be in my mock draft, I had them taking Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, and it came out just a couple days ago.
Have you been practicing saying his name?
I did.
Yeah.
I listened to it a couple times and was like, all right, I'm not going to mess that up now.
Well done.
But it came out a couple days ago that the reason Jeremiah and nobody knew. I had a bunch of my friends texting me while the draft was going on, like, "Oh my God, he's falling! I hope we can get him. I hope we can get him." And Jeremiah has some sort of heart condition that teams knew about. That's why he fell. So, as somebody who supports the Raiders and is a Raiders fan, I'm glad that they didn't go that direction. I'm glad they were in on that secret. Overall, I'm happy with it. Like you said, Alex Leatherwood, whether he's picked in the first round or the second round, he's going to be a very serviceable addition. And again, the other pick I had them taking in the first round would have been Trayvon Morig. They picked him in the second round. So all in all, I think they did fine. They did a lot of defensive players this year, which is kind of what they had to do. Last year they took 5 receivers in the draft. None of them worked out. So hopefully one of these defensive guys can show out, and hopefully 2 of them can. I hope it works out. Mayock and Gruden don't have a great track record right now. But again, I do have a lot of faith in Leatherwood and Morg, so hopefully they're difference makers.
Yeah, I do like the Morid pick. I believe I had him going in the first round too. So even if you flip-flop Leatherwood as a second-round pick and Morig as a first-round pick, it may come out in a wash. But still, in my opinion, the value could have been improved upon with those picks, but we'll see. I don't know. Gruden, I guess I'll save that for our division debates. All right, let's move on. The next biggest losers, this is plural here, the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know why?
Why is that?
Because you do not take a running back in the first round unless his name is Derrick Henry. You just don't do it. The value is not there. Jacksonville, after taking their generational quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, with the number 1 overall pick, decided to use its second first-round pick, not on an offensive tackle to protect the man. No. Going to pick up his old buddy teammate from Clemson, Travis Etienne, don't get me wrong, I think he's going to be a good back, but there's so much more value in the first round. You cannot use that pick to take a running back there, especially when you just got a generational quarterback who's being compared to the likes of Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning. You just can't do it. I would have taken an offensive lineman there. That's my opinion. And the same goes for the Pittsburgh Steelers, taking Alabama running back Najee Harris. I understand the predicament. They had absolutely no run game last year. So they were very desperate to take a running back, but still use that pick on an offensive lineman, clear the lanes for your running back to run through first before you spend a first rounder on a running back. That's my opinion. I'm sticking to it. Jacksonville Jaguars, Pittsburgh Steelers drop the ball in the first round.
That makes a lot of sense. The Jaguars, my issue with the Jaguars taking Travis Etienne in the first round isn't because their offensive line is weak. They have a couple of really good offensive linemen there, but you have James Robinson, a guy that I believe was an undrafted free agent,
and they signed Carlos Hyde.
Yeah, and you signed Carlos Hyde. I forgot all about that move. You have two very serviceable guys. If one goes down, you have a good starting running back either way. It just that one didn't make a lot of sense. I understand getting him. I thought he was the best running back in this class. Najee Harris right behind him. He's a freak of nature, but I think when you talk about a complete running back and being able to do everything, I think Travis Etienne is the best running back in the 2021 class. So they're lucky to have him with Trevor Lawrence, but you could have gotten somebody else. It made too much sense to me that they needed to take a linebacker there. They got to get their second level fix. Hell, they need to get their front fix. They should have taken a defensive player, one way or another. But I didn't really understand that one. The Steelers, though, I'm pretty much in agreement with you. Najee Harris, like I said, going to be a phenomenal NFL player. He's a freak of nature. But they lost Alejandro Villanueva to free agency. He is now with the rival Ravens. And they also lost Marquise Pouncey. I believe he was one of the Pouncey brothers, the one that was with the Steelers. He retired. So I thought for sure they were going to go offensive lineman. Like you said, you can understand it. Najee Harris is a freak of nature. Anybody would want that talent in the room, but you got to get somebody to protect your old ass quarterback, and you got to get somebody to create the running lanes for a running back. I could agree with you on both of those. I don't think either of them made sense, but for different reasons.
Yeah, we'll see how it all plays out. I mean, I'm not a GM. So maybe they know more than I do. Maybe not. If you want to hire me for your GM, I'll gladly leave my job. So
Would
I'm
be a
out there.
phenomenal job.
Hell yeah. All right. So any more big winners or losers in your book? Or we're going to move on to some notable moves I got written down here. But any big winners or losers you want to talk about?
So if I had to pick another winner in this draft, I would probably have to go with the Atlanta Falcons. Their first round pick is a guy that, as long as he's able to stay healthy and wants to play football for a long time, almost guaranteed future Hall of Famer. Just phenomenal talent in Kyle Pitts. But then I liked what they did with their mid-round picks. And I told you earlier, I really like those mid-round picks. You can find a lot of value there. And I thought Richie Grant was somebody that, because he plays for smaller school, UCF has gotten more recognition over the last few years. But I think the safety from UCF, Richie Grant, I thought that was a really, really good pickup at the start of the second round. And then you go and get a tackle and Jalen Mayfield. I won't lie to you and say that I know really anything about him. But just to go get an offensive lineman, fill a position of need, I thought they did what they needed to. Their fourth round pick, beginning of the fourth round, was a corner, another position of need. So hopefully he can come in and have an impact. Because they get Kyle Pitts, they were a winner. I think any team that got Kyle Pitts was going to be a winner in this draft, pretty much no matter what they did after that. But to look at their draft board and see the amount of picks that they had in this draft and to see what they were able to do with those picks in this draft, they're really shoring up the defense. They filled some positions of need on the offense. So I'd put the Falcons up there. I think the Falcons did a really good job. Arthur Smith should have a pretty good year in his first year with the Falcons.
Yeah, I can get behind that. My question is, well, I have two. First, with Kyle Pitts, are they going to keep him at tight end? Or you think they move him outside to receiver?
I think it would be foolish to put him at receiver because he's so big body. You want that guy on the line of scrimmage. You want to he can be George Kittle if you teach that dude the techniques and being able to block the bigger guys. Put a little more muscle on him. You want him to be able to block those guys the way that George Kittle does. So it's nice to have him on the inside, but at the same time, you want him to stay lean and be able to run like he does, so that you can put him in the slot at any time you want.
But he's what, 6'6", ran a 4.44 40. You put him on the outside with Julio Jones or Calvin Ridley, all three of them. How do you stop that?
Yeah, see what I've been thinking of is, because of the rumors out there that Julio is going to get traded, the Falcons cap situation is terrible, so Julio might have to get moved. If they move Julio, there is a very real possibility Kyle Pitts is a number 1 or number 2 receiver. Calvin Ridley is, a top 10, top 15 receiver in his own right. They have a lot of talent that they can throw to. It wouldn't surprise me if Julio gets moved and Kyle Pitts gets put out there, but if not, then I would expect, like you said, Kyle Pitts to line up on the outside, Calvin or Julio in the slot, or vice versa. Kyle sits in the slot, those two on the outside. I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun. It should, I feel like, look a lot like their 2018 offense, where they're just passing all over the place. You get Matt Ryan back in MVP form. It'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, that was going to bring me into my second question with, do you think they would move him outside if they ship Julio Jones out? Which, if you're going to get rid of Julio Jones, there's no doubt in my mind that they're going to put Kyle Pitts on the outside. So I don't know. We'll see what goes on there. All right. So you got any more winners, losers you want to talk about?
The only real loser that I have here is the Texans. Some people,
Oh, bro, they lost this like 3 years ago. What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. They're still paying for Laramie Tunsil. Didn't have the first 2 picks. People saying, oh, they went and got a quarterback and should be good developmental quarterback and blah, 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 and the Deshaun Watson thing. Look, man, if you don't have a first or second round pick, you're an automatic loser in the NFL draft.
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up. I was thinking about that earlier when I was going through everything, but I'm glad you brought that up. All right, let's move on to some notable moves that happened throughout the draft. First, I'm going to start with the big one, Trey Lance at number 3 to the San Francisco 49ers. This was the pick that set the entire draft. Everybody was discussing for weeks, what were the 49ers going to do at number 3? Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch played it perfectly. Nobody had any clue who they were going to choose on draft day. And as of Thursday morning, the day of the draft, the favorite on the betting lines on the sports books was Mac Jones. Mac Jones. Lance has a lot to prove, but with a guy like Shanahan and the great 49ers culture they have going on there, I think there's a lot of potential for Lance to be a star. And quite frankly, I'm excited to see it unfold.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. And I don't know if he'll start right away. It doesn't sound like Jimmy G's going anywhere. It sounds like they want Jimmy G to kind of mentor him. And look, when Jimmy G's in the lineup, he doesn't lose a whole lot either. So if he's healthy, I don't see Jimmy G losing the job, but I can see them letting Trey Lance have a Patrick Mahomes year where he just sits behind the guy, and then they get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo one way or another next year and let Trey Lance take over. That seems like the most likely outcome. Obviously, Jimmy G, very injury prone, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Trey Lance this year. And even if you do see Trey Lance this year, the roster around the quarterback there has been really good pretty much every year since Kyle Shanahan got there. John Lynch has done an amazing job year in and year out of constructing that team, keeping guys in-house. He's another GM that's out there building his team from the inside out, starting in the trenches, and you've seen that with the moves he makes. He whether it's I know he traded away DeForest Buckner, but he immediately used that draft pick to bring a guy in to fill that spot. He drafted a defensive lineman, Nick Bosa, with the top overall pick. He's done a great job building the roster around him. The offensive line is still solid there. Mike McGlinchey being the guy that anchors that line, kind of like the Quentin Nelson of their offensive line. So Trey Lance has every opportunity to shine here, and I think he should. There's no reason to think that he won't do it. One reason that I like Carson Wentz when he came out of college, he was another guy, went to North Dakota State. People were like, oh, there's no way he can be a top pick. There's no way he'll be good in the NFL. He didn't have any competition. He's overrated. He's overrated. One thing about people, just guys in general that you evaluate in football. Football is different than any other sport. There are guys that really just set themselves apart because what they do in a game helps their team win. They make plays that help their team win. And there are guys that go out there and like Trevor Lawrence. That's why Trevor Lawrence is such a lock. I think it was either Ian Rappaport or Adam, I believe it was Ian Rappaport, came out a couple days ago and said, unless Trevor Lawrence can go 17-0 this year with the Jags, he's going to lose the first regular season game of his life.
That is absolutely insane.
I mean, absurd. Some guys just win. Carson Wentz was one of those guys. He just won all the time at North Dakota State. Trey Lance is another guy that, people I feel like are really on shitting on him because he didn't play this past year. So, recency bias is a real thing in sports. And without him, I think he only played one game and then opted out. Trey Lance has been a winner everywhere he went. I would expect it to be the same. And the pieces are there around him. That's what I'm most excited about. I think the pieces are there around him. And then they went and got Trey Sermon in the third round from Ohio State, running back from Ohio State. I'm not much of an Ohio State guy, but look, you can't deny when somebody is a freak athlete. Trey Sermon's a freak athlete. I don't know how he slipped all the way to the third. I guess running back isn't really something people look at now. There are a lot of teams out there deploying multiple running back situations, but I think they nailed this draft. Again, John Lynch just does such a great job with that roster.
Yeah, it's crazy. And if I'm Trey Lance, I'm so excited right now because you just went to a team that is one season removed from a Super Bowl game, a team that won 6 games last year when they were missing like 90% of their starters the entire season. So if I'm Trey Lance, I am hyped whether he sits behind Garoppolo, which I think would be the smart move for at least a year if Jimmy G can stay healthy, or if they even ship him out and Trey Lance gets in there, he's ready to win now. And if he can come in and mold into his own, man, watch out. The 49ers could be a real problem these next few years.
Yeah, no kidding, man. Just stacking up in that NFC West. All those teams are just everybody's getting good quarterbacks now.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Another notable move, in my opinion, is wide receiver Jalen Waddle to Miami with the number 6 pick. I think Waddle's going to be a stud for the Dolphins. Unfortunately, I'm just not sold on Waddle's former teammate at Alabama, Tua Tagovailoa, yet. But I do like the move with Miami taking Waddle number 6.
Yeah, I do too. I had him going 18 to the Dolphins. So I still had Waddle ending up in Miami, but they went and took him at 6. And look, with the way wide receivers went in the first round, he probably wasn't going to make it to 18. So they went and got their guy. Like you said, there's still some doubt about Tua. I thought for sure the number 18 pick that they went was going to be offensive line. I thought that was an area that they needed to address. Again, Darisaw was falling and somehow ended up going 23, passed by, the Dolphins. needed him. The Raiders need him. The Colts need him. There were plenty of teams that needed linemen, didn't take them. Um, it just Jalen Phillips for sure seemed like a first round talent. I believe you and I both had him going in the first round. I actually think you and I both had him going to the Browns, and um, I just think you could have gotten somebody different, somebody that could have been more impactful because you can't see these young quarterbacks shine unless they're protected. Not everybody comes out and is Andrew Luck, right? Andrew Luck wasn't protected very well his rookie year, but he was a different kind of guy. Tua Tagovailoa showed that he needs to have a little bit of protection, which is a lot of Alabama quarterbacks. It's not lie. That's why a lot of them suck because they always have the five best linemen in the nation when they're in college, and then that's not the case when they get in the NFL. But overall, I think Miami had a nice draft. It didn't go the way I thought, but to still be able to get and you'll like this one, Liam Eichenberg, I believe is the way you say
Notre
that
Dame.
name.
Yep.
Yep, the Notre Dame. Now, I had a couple guys. I have one guy that's a Eagles fan. That's a friend. I have another friend that's a Giants fan, and they were both saying, I want Eichenberg. He's falling. He's falling. I want Eichenberg in the second round. So it's nice that Miami had a bunch of picks in this draft that were able to snag Eichenberg with the 10th pick in the second round. So overall, good draft. Didn't go quite the way I thought it would, but not terrible.
Yeah, man. Those Notre Dame linemen, they're like fucking lineman factory up there in South Bend, pumping
Yes,
them out left and right. All right, let's keep it with another Alabama player, cornerback Patrick Surtain to Denver Broncos at number 9. In a league that continues to lean more towards the passing game, having stud corners will put you in a better position to win now and in the future. Drafting the best available corner in this draft and an immediate starter in Patrick Surtain from Alabama at number 9, absolute home run for the Denver Broncos organization.
absolutely. Patrick Surtain has all the physical intangibles that you would want. He has the height, he has the reach, you know what I mean? He has the speed and agility. For all intents and purposes, should be a future Pro Bowl, All Pro kind of guy. And just stacking them up there, the Broncos have shown that they like to have guys that can guard at a high level. Then they add Patrick Surtain to a stacked secondary already. I think it was a good pick. I thought they would trade up, try to get a quarterback. But if they're going to ride out with Teddy and Drew Lock this year, then that's fine. They have Cortland Sutton come back this year. They drafted Jerry Jeudy last year. The offense should be fine. They went out, got Javonte Williams, running back, with the third pick in the second round. So, overall, I think it was probably the best possible pick that they could have had where they were. They didn't really have a whole lot of offensive needs. Maybe you think they go wide receiver there. It would have made sense if they went wide receiver. You kind of add to what you have there and help the quarterbacks that you have. But I love the selection. Patrick Surtain, I'm not much of a Dolphins fan personally, but Patrick Surtain, his father, was an outstanding NFL player. I talked about it last episode that you're seeing these guys come in that come from NFL families and they're dominating. I think Patrick Surtain is going to fall right in line with that.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I got 2 more to talk about. The first one I don't really want to talk about because I absolutely hate that it happened this way. But the New England Patriots and Mac Jones. I called this one Thursday morning. I published my final mock draft for weeks. The speculation was that New England was going to move up into the top 10 and draft a quarterback. I hoped, I prayed, even said it on a pre-draft show that I really, really, really wanted the New England Patriots to send a huge package to move up into the top 10 because I knew there was going to be a strong possibility that either Mac Jones, Justin Fields, Trey Lance would be sitting there at 15, and I selfishly wanted the Pats to hurt themselves more than they needed to. But we're talking about Bill Belichick here. The man, the myth, the legend himself, and dare I say it, arguably the greatest coach of all time. Not only did he save his assets and stayed at 15, he got his quarterback, Mac Jones. The kid's a winner. He doesn't have to be great. All he has to do is do his job within that New England system, and he should have a solid career. And the Patriots were also able to take Alabama defensive tackle Christian Barmore in the second round, too, who I believe will be an immediate starter and a very good player for the New England Patriots. So, job well done to Bill. I give my hats off to him this draft.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you have faith in Bill. And look, Bill is the greatest football coach to ever live. I think that's been pretty apparent over the last 20 years. But I will never back down until I'm given reason to. I'm not going to back down from the fact that Alabama quarterbacks are complete garbage in the NFL. So dude, I was in my bedroom going crazy when Mac Jones got selected 15 to go to the Patriots because, like, yes, they're going to have Cam play this year. There's no way Mac wins a starting job over him, but then they're going to let Mac experiment with the offense next year, and it's going to be a terrible fucking experience. I cannot wait for that to happen. Look, a lot of people believe in Mac Jones. A lot of people believe in every Alabama quarterback. There's not really anything that was special. Not to say he should be fine. He's not going to be a quarterback that should come into the NFL and turn the ball over. But when I look at Mac Jones, I look at him a lot like the Colts third-round pick Sam Ehlinger. There's nothing special. You're not going to come in and give the other team the ball 4 times a game. Cool,
Bro,
man.
was there anything special about Tom Brady?
I mean, I don't know. I didn't get to watch Tom Brady live.
Besides, he had the end with the locker room guy with the little air needle for the footballs. Besides that,
yeah, a special relationship with the equipment guys running the cameras.
Yeah, no kidding.
No, I mean that, and look, that's a fair point. But yeah, I guess that's a fair point. If anybody's gonna turn somebody like that around, it'd be Bill. And Josh McDaniels there. Can it be done? Sure. Will it be done? I'm not somebody that believes it will.
I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of hope there. Don't get me wrong. I understand exactly what you're saying. In my mind, I'm like, nah, they're not going to do it. They're not going to do it. They're not going to do it. There's a very good possibility that Mac Jones here in a couple of years is putting up huge numbers and leading the Patriots to a lot of wins. But, for all intents and purposes, I hope the Patriots suck for the next 10 years because of it.
That's right. Tell them. All right. Got one more to talk about. Number 21 overall pick in the NFL draft. Defensive end. How do you say his name? Kwity Paye? Kwity Paye out of the University of Michigan. In my final mock draft, I also had the Colts selecting defensive end Kwity Paye out of Michigan. I absolutely love this pick by the Colts. I know there's a huge need there at left tackle, which at this current time, we're still trying to figure it out. Did we sign Fisher?
We have not signed Eric Fisher yet. Eric Fisher is supposed to be visiting with the Colts and is expected to sign with the Colts.
So close. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, like I said, I know there's a huge need there at left tackle with the retirement of Anthony Costanzo. But I think Kwity is going to be an absolute stud. He's a little raw, but with one of the greatest of all times and Robert Mathis teaching this man, I'm extremely excited to see what he can bring to this already ranked number 1 Indianapolis defense. Great pick in the first round by Jim Irsay and Chris Ballard.
Yeah, I think so too. Kwity Paye, like you said, a bit of a raw talent. He's a physical freak. The Colts' first 2 picks, physical freaks. By all stretches. And look, Kwity Paye fits the mold for everything the Colts are looking to be. Chris Ballard since day one has been about the culture. You gotta have a culture. And Kwity Paye, if you go look up the Sports Center featured Kwity Paye, what they did for him and kind of going through the journey of his life in about 10 minutes. It's been an incredible story. He's a fighter. He's a guy that comes in, wants to get better every day. And the good thing about Quiddy is if you look at the tape, he has all the fundamentals. He does all the fundamentals. I mean, perfectly. If you can't teach somebody the fundamentals better than Quiddy will do it, but he has the explosiveness. He needs to like you said, work with a guy like Robert Mathis and put everything together and become more fluent with what he's doing. There's no doubt in my mind that the Colts coaches are going to be able to develop him the way they need to. They've shown the ability to develop all kinds of guys, first round, second round, third round, fourth round. It doesn't matter for them. They develop these guys into really good football players. And Kwity Paye is going to be no different. They took a chance on a guy in the second round, and Deo, I'm not going to attempt his last name, but he's another defensive end from Vanderbilt. Look, I was I was really hoping the Colts were going to go tackle with one of the first two picks. Pretty much anybody that's a Colts fan did. It's a huge need because, look, they went and got Sam Tevy. Turn the tape on, man. Sam Tevy's been getting quarterbacks killed for the last 4 years. Like, Sam Tevy's not the guy you want to roll out there. So everybody wanted to tackle. But if we're going to sign Eric Fisher, even coming off of a Achilles injury, I'm cool with it. Eric Fisher is a fine addition. We'll have him about halfway through the season, I believe it is. We'll also be able to get Deo back. I went back and looked at some of the articles that came out after Deo got hurt to see what they were thinking or what they were talking about. The timeline of him being able to play football again was, it looks like he'll be ready to go sometime around September, October, something like that. So we should have him somewhere, expect the Colts to kind of hold him out. That there's a deep rotation at defensive end for the Colts. So I would expect them to hold him out for a couple extra games, maybe around Thanksgiving. You might expect him around Thanksgiving time when things are really heating up in the NFL season. But a pick that I really liked, that my immediate reaction was like, why are we getting this guy? He's coming off an Achilles injury. What are we doing? But I really did a deep dive into him, and he's one of the most physically gifted guys, not only just in this draft, but one of the most physically gifted guys to come out of a draft in the last 20 years. He has the longest reach of any defensive. They used a weird word. It was like mock draftable guys that came out of the draft. So I'm assuming there was an undrafted free agent at some point that came out, had longer reach. But of the guys anybody knows, he has the longest reach of any guy coming out since 1999, and by all accounts, just like Quiddy, just a physical freak, But I've seen other people talk about this. If Deo did not have the Achilles injury, he probably was going to for sure be a first round pick. I mean, he has all the physical tools you could ever want in defensive end. He a lot like Quiddy in the fact that he has the speed to be able to get around the edge. He has the power to be able to bull rush when he needs to. He has all the skills, not so much as a raw talent as Kwity Paye. He might be a better talent than Kwity Paye when it's all said and done. But I think the Colts really went out and, we had Robert Mathis and Dwight Freeney here together. And that, 93, 98, bringing the heat Boulevard. They were terrorizing quarterbacks for a long time. The big hole in those defenses was that they gave up a bunch of rush yards because the interior sucked. But what we've done here is we went and kind of replicated what I believe will be another version of the 93, 98, bringing the heat Boulevard. But instead we have Defoe and Grover Stewart on multi-year deals to lock up the middle. If Eric Fisher becomes a Colt, and we'll talk, more about that when we get around to division debates and everything. But I think Chris Ballard, my immediate reaction to the draft was, what are you doing? But a couple days or, a week later with what I'm hearing and what I've seen, Chris Ballard couldn't have done a better job.
Believe in Ballard, baby. Believe in Ballard.
And hey, another pick I'm excited about, and again, another guy we can talk more about later down the line, Kylen Granson. a little bit undersized tight end. But I started looking into him. Obviously, fourth round guy, not somebody that I looked into, at all or ever even heard of before the draft. But I did a lot of digging into Kylan Granson, and he's another one of those tight ends that kind of like what we were talking about with Kyle Pitts. You want to put him in the slot. He can probably work for you there because he has the speed. So another guy that I'm very excited about.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think Beller did a hell of a job, and I honestly don't even know how I'm gonna respond to everything you just said. Because, like, how the hell do you know this? Like, wingspan? Like, how do you know this shit, Hefe?
My sources have been saying, I can't remember exactly which one it was. Have so many of them. But one of my sources did put it on the internet that Deo does have an incredible wingspan. Which, if you go back and look at, to get serious for a second, go back and look at Chris Ballard's defensive draft picks and getting DeForest Buckner, the trade he made. Go look at just the physical things, the intangibles that these guys have. How tall are they? What's their wingspan? Wingspan is one of the key factors that Chris Ballard and his guys have been looking at, and you can kind of see that with the guys that they've been drafting.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, the more longer arms you got out there, the more deflections you're gonna get, more tip balls, all that kind of stuff. Every inch counts. That's what she said. Boom.
Oh my god! Oh, I'm so glad you
Uh,
did that.
yeah, with that, we are out of time, though. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us today. Uh, Thanks for chilling, taking in this wealth of information that Hefe the Guru is throwing out there, talking about wingspans and stuff, shit I've never even heard of. But hey, that's what we're here for. Again, we appreciate you hanging out with us. Head on over to YouTube if you're not there already. Hit that subscribe button. Share that bad boy. Help us get some more subscribers. Once we hit 1,000, we're going to be giving out a free authentic NFL jersey from the NFL shop on us. Just help us out. Get the word. This is season 2. We really like to expand. Hopefully start raking in some revenue, hire some guys, make this show badass, get you on here with us. All these hopes and dreams, but we need your help. So again, we appreciate it. You got any parting words you want to throw out there, Hefe?
Nothing. I want to expand on what you're saying. We appreciate everybody tuning in. We hope to be able to continue to make this better, and it'll get better. As long as we can have your support, if we get your guys' support, we can put more time into this. So hit that subscribe button, hit the like, share this with your friends and family. Anybody that you know is into football. We love talking about this stuff, man, and we, like Zach was saying, we'd like to have any of you on, as long as you want to talk football. You come on, talk with us. We can bullshit about this stuff all day long.
Hell yeah, you heard it. All right, that's all we got for you today. We'll catch you next time. We're out.